They shot him in the street. No trial, no shout of warning, no mercy, just a pulse rifle shriek, followed by a thick, meaty thump, the kind that stole air from bystanders' lungs, the kind that left the silence often heavier than the gunfire itself. Owen Carr, once a man with cracked fingernails and the kindest eyes in the village, collapsed onto the baked road of Orvan's spine. His limbs twitched once, then twice, then nothing. A faint hiss escaped the hole in his chest. The bread he'd stolen, a small, moldy loaf, rolled from his hand, bouncing once before settling beside his body like a cruel reminder. Captain Derek Vrel of the Galactic Patrol lowered his weapon with robotic disinterest. Theft of state ration. Class B violation. Civil breach neutralized. His voice had no heat, no edge, just that process chill that came with Memoi's authority. People watched, silent, dozens of them, thin, dust-caked, expressionless. Farmers, technicians, children, too afraid to cry, too empty to scream. Only the girl did. Papa! She burst through the wall of bodies, barefoot and wild, snatching the bread from the ground and wrapping herself around her father's corpse. Her sobs tore across the plaza. She didn't care about the rifles aimed at her head. She didn't see Vrel raise a gloved hand, didn't see the patrol hesitate. "Let her weep," he muttered. "We're not monsters." Monsters. The word clung to the air like oil. Vrel turned. "Disperse. This is a controlled zone under curfew, by order of the Galactic Accord. Return to dwellings. Now!" Nobody moved. They didn't resist, but they didn't obey either. It was a kind of stillness that felt too calm, the kind that whispered of buried guns and people who'd stopped praying for peace. And then someone gasped. All heads turned toward the northern ridge. A figure had appeared, just a silhouette, a man, walking the spine of the hill as if he owned it, not running, not hiding, walking, deliberate, hooded, dust cold behind him, disturbed by neither wind nor haste. His pace was mechanical, like his destination had already been chosen, and time itself was merely catching up. Vrel's brow tightened. Who the hell? He lifted his wrist console, syncing with a drone scanner. No identification found. Unregistered presence. His face twisted. Another scavenger. The man kept coming. Closer now. The hood covered his face, but the rest was clear. Long coat, battered boots, something heavy on his back, strapped crosswise, hidden in cloth. His steps led him straight into the plaza, straight past the people, straight to Owen Carr's corpse. He knelt. The girl stopped crying. Even the birds, those cursed sky pickers that screeched at every sunrise, fell silent. The hooded man reached out and closed Owen's eyes. Then he took the man's hand, still warm, and folded it over his chest. He stood, toned, and faced Vrel. The silence burned. I said, "Identify yourself." Vrel barked. The figure reached up, pulled back the hood, and time cracked. His face was a battlefield. Scars traced like lightning across weathered skin. His hair, gray-black, hung in matted strands to his shoulders. Across his brow, tattoos. Symbols, not artistic, not tribal, forbidden. Galactic runes, carved in the style of the ancient defenders. The crowd knew. Someone whispered, "Warden." A tremble passed through the ranks of armored patrolmen. Vrel's lips parted, then closed. Impossible. The wardens were extinct, hunted to the last, cleansed. The hooded man said nothing, just stared, until Vrel gave the order. Fire. The plaza lit with blue-white pulses. 10 rifles spat death at once. And the warden moved. The first bolt missed. The second, he caught. His hand snapped up. A bracer of dark metal absorbed the pulse with a hiss. He flicked it away like an insult. By the third shot, he was airborne, leaping, cloak flaring behind him like a raven's wingspan. The cloth unraveled mid-air. What had been a robe was now falling in pieces, revealing a war harness, black alloy stitched with arcane marks. A blade flashed. It wasn't plasma. It wasn't powered. It was steel, forged, and it sang as it moved. The first patrolman died with his jaw split. The second tried to run and caught the blade through his spine. Vrel shouted for backup. His voice cracked. The warden didn't care. He was a machine built from old fury. His movements were savage, yet surgical. The blade spun, dipped, lashed, found arteries and armor seems like it remembered them. One soldier fell, then two, then five. And it wasn't just a death. It was a precision. No wasted cuts. No rage-blind flailing. Each stroke was a lesson in anatomy and vengeance. A corporal tried to flank. The warden turned, caught her rifle mid-swing, yanked her into his knee. Her mask shattered. She dropped. Only Vrel remained. The captain backed into the cooler wreck behind him, his pulse pistol shaking in his grip. "Aye," he stammered. This is a regulated sector. Your kind is illegal. You understand that." The warden advanced. "You just murdered a farmer," he said, voice like dust over fire. "That was your last order." Vrel screamed and fired. Once, twice, point blank. The shot struck the warden's shoulder plate. Sparks flew. He didn't flinch. He grabbed Vrel's arm, spun him, and drove the blade through the gap under his ribs, upward, until it stuck out the other side. Vrel screamed, then gurgled, then nothing. The warden yanked the blade free and let the body drop like refuse. He turned to the villagers. No one moved. No one cheered. They didn't know if they were next. The girl stood, bread still clutched in her fist. The warden approached, knelt, and wiped the blade clean on the hem of his own coat. He didn't say a word, just handed her the hilt of the sword. For a second, she looked at it like it was magic. Then she took it. He rose, walked toward the wreck of the crawler, and reached behind it. From within the cargo, he dragged out something wrapped in cloth. A flag, old, human-made, burned at the edges. Its symbol half-faded, a phoenix fractured across soot-stained fabric. He lifted it high, let the wind catch it, then struck a match. The fire devoured it in seconds. Ash swelled across Owen Carr's body. The warden turned to the people. "They think this is over," he said. "It's not. I didn't come to mourn. I came to finish something." He paused, looked past them, toward the distant south. Orvan's spine is only the beginning. And with that, he walked, down the road, alone, toward war. Night never truly falls in Orvan's spine. It drips, a slow descent, like oil bleeding across broken glass, polluted sky dulling from soot gray to a charred black peppered with stars that don't shine, only observe. The villagers did not sleep. They didn't speak of the man who carved 10 soldiers into blood and sinew. They didn't follow him either, but they watched every step. He had taken the long road south, boots dragging a trail of dead silence behind them, shoulders weighted not by armor but by memory. The warden, a ghost pulled from history's grave, a whisper before now, a myth among deserters and dreamers. Some said they were monks, others called them warlocks, elite counterinsurgents from Earth's final days, trained to walk where machines failed, trained to fight what logic could not, erase, burned from the records after the Treaty of the Sky Vaults. All except him. He found the old supply relay at dusk. It was hidden beneath the ribs of a collapsed terror hauler, its steel bones jutting skyward like the fingers of a long-dead god. He slipped inside through the ruptured side panel, past scavenger graffiti, past dried blood and the echo of screams that had once mattered. A console flickered. He touched it, and his armor pulsed in response, runes sinking. He muttered a sequence in a dead tongue. 6 burn for freedom. 7th carries a chain. The console lit. A warden vault opened. Inside, gear, modified, forged in Earth's pre-collapse for operatives like him. A data spike car from lunar obsidian, shock sticks engraved with sunken sigils, an injector capsule the color of old rust, neural enforcer, last of its kind, and a book, real paper, pages yellowed. The oath. He knelt, opened it to the first page. Read. We do not serve flags. We do not bow to empires. We protect the fire. We become the knife in the dark. His thumb slid across the seal below, 7 interlocked blades. Then he placed the book to his chest, and for the first time in 20 years, spoke the vow aloud. I am the exile of the Earthborn Watch. The lost. I do not forget. I do not forgive. I remain. A beat. Then the lights cut out. Silence returned, and somewhere far above, across orbit, alarms began to scream. The galactic outpost at Tier 5, codenamed Dagoness, detected him 30 minutes later, not by signal trace, not by digital breadcrumbs, but by corpses. A convoy carrying replicator fuel cells found turned over, cargo vaporized, crew mutilated. Each soldier had their visor removed, eyes replaced by burning sigils melted into bone. A warden's mark. Ancient. Illegal. Absolute. High command was briefed within the hour. Admiral RYX, orbiting aboard the dreadnought Penumbra's Whale, read the report with shaking hands. He had seen this before. Long ago, in the shadow campaigns across Mars Colony Theta, when one warden took down 5,000 machines in a single night. That warden had vanished. Now, he walked again. The warden moved like the forest, slow and unstoppable. He struck next to the comms node outside Station Blackroot. 22 soldiers dead before a single warning shot. He didn't use explosives. He didn't hack systems. He walked in. Every kill was deliberate. Every blow made to be remembered. And left behind, always, the same thing. A single line, burned into alloy, scrawled in ash, painted in blood. I remember Oven. He returned to the spine under cover of storm. Lightning shattered across the sky as the people gathered, wide-eyed and silent, as he approached the same plaza where Owen Carr had died. He said nothing. Not at first. He found the girl again, still carrying the blade he'd given her. She tried to return it. He shook his head. You keep it. Remember what was stolen. Then, at last, he spoke to them all. I am not your savior. I'm not your rebellion. His voice rang like the edge of steel on glass. But I am awake, and I will not be the only one. Someone asked, why now? He turned his face to the horizon, where patrol carriers were beginning to stack in the clouds. They broke the last chain when they killed a man for a loaf of bread, he said, and now they will see what happens when the leash snaps back. A whisper rode the wind. The girl, again, are there others like you? He paused. A long, slow exhale. No, he said. They buried the others beneath ice, ash, and memory. Then he looked to the sky. But now I'm going to dig. 2 nights later, the first hunter squad was deployed. They weren't soldiers. They were whispers, specialists trained to mimic the tactics of wardens. 5 men, no ranks, no insignias, all cloned from a single bloodline bred for war. They move in silence, approach the ruins of the old signal tower where the warden had last been sighted. They spread, they searched, and one by one, they disappeared, not killed, not found, vanished, except the last. He was left strung upside down, arms dislocated, face peeled back to show the raw message carved into his forehead. Send 10 more. I have time. Inside the wreck of Orvan's shield, a former mining crawler, the warden worked by torchlight, not crafting, not praying, recording. His fingers dance across the ancient interface of a soul codex, transmitting encrypted memories into the void. Data, combat logs, galactic war crimes, hidden treaties, civilian executions reclassified as test site stabilizations. Truth, it bled from him like blood from old wounds. He didn't do this for justice. He did it so the fire wouldn't go out when he did. And he would. He knew that. The girl came to him again. She watched in silence. You're leaving, aren't you? She asked. I'm going deeper, he replied. Into what? He paused. Into their throat. He looked at her, really looked, and knelt to her level. If they come back, and I'm not here, run. Don't fight. Don't raise banners. Don't die on your knees or standing tall. Just run. Survive. But we want to help. No, he said. Harsh. You want revenge. That comes later, after you understand its price. He pressed something into her hand. A data shard. Hide this. Never plug it in. Not until the flag flies upside down. She didn't understand, but she nodded. When the orbital gunship arrived 3 hours later, the village was empty. No bodies. No tracks. Just silence. and the shadow of a man walking into the southern canyons, blade in hand, oath reborn, war on his heels. They didn't send soldiers this time. They sent machines, not the kind that walked, not androids in armor or drones with rifles. These were orbital-class exterminators, AZM Ravagers, metal serpents built for genocide. Each one was a skinned missile, a digitized rough fitted with antithermal plating, razor-field wings, and minds carved from predatory code. No mercy, no soul, no surrender. And they were descending, 5 of them, screaming from orbit like black comets. Their target, the Southern Canyon. Coordinates triangulated to a single walking figure. The Warden. He felt them coming before the scanners pinged. His instincts didn't scream. They whispered. It wasn't fair. Not yet, but something close. Respect. He stood at the canyon's edge, where a narrow passage slashed through 2 miles of red rock. Wind howled around him. His cloak cracked like a war drum. He reached into his harness and pulled out something old. Not a weapon. A stone. Cracked. Dull. Covered in red runes. He pressed it to the ground. And waited. First strike hit at Mach 4. A shockwave shattered the canyon's lip. Rocks exploded outward like shrapnel. The Ravager didn't land. It carved a smoking trench straight through the path, then reversed midair, spinning on magnetic gyros. Its wings unfolded. A dozen buzzing blades, each vibrating at molecular frequencies. Then it saw him, and screamed. A sound like grinding steel poured into human lungs, mechanical rage woven with synthetic hatred. It charged. The Warden ducked under its first swipe, the tips of its wings slicing at inches from his scalp. His boots skidded across gravel. He rolled, came up swinging. Steel metalloy. His blade sparked off the Ravager's underplate. Didn't cut, but dented. That was enough. He planted a boot against its chest and launched himself backward. The second Ravager descended behind him. No warning. Its wings extended mid-dive, catching sunlight, turning the canyon into a blur of light and shadow. It banked, accelerated, then fired its core bolt. A stream of molten data, condensed into plasma. The Warden leapt sideways. Barely. The shot melted the stone wall behind him. He skidded to a stop, face cut, armor smoking. No time. He grabbed the cracked stone from the dirt and slammed it into his chest plate. It glowed. The canyon pulsed. Below the dust, the trap activated. Dozens of old EMP rods, buried over hours, tuned by hand, exploded with synchronized bursts. Not enough to destroy, but enough to blind. The Ravagers shrieked in fury. Their sensors flickered. Their targeting vanished. The Warden ran, straight toward the wall. Not away, toward. He jumped, hands catching a jagged ledge, boots slamming stone, and climbed. Fast, brutal, efficient. The third Ravager pursued. It clipped the canyon's edge, folding its wings into a compact spear, thrusters igniting with hellfire. But the Warden wasn't climbing to escape. He was climbing to position. He reached the summit, flipped into a crouch, and waited. The Ravager shot upward to meet him. He leapt. Mid-air collision. Steel slammed into alloy. He drove his blade between 2 of its armor plates. Sparks showered the sky. The Ravager rolled, trying to shake him. He held fast, then drove a spike, the obsidian data knife, into its main eye. The machine shrieked. Its body convulsed, tilted sideways, veering off course. The Warden jumped off just before it crashed into the far canyon wall in an explosion of fire and shattered iron. He landed hard, shoulder rolled, blade gone, smoke in his lungs. 3 more Ravagers, still hunting. He ran. They chased him through the canyon like angry gods. Cliffs collapsed behind him. Lightning bloomed from their engines. He dived through a split in the rock just as the 4th Ravager's wing clipped the pass, shattering the ceiling into a cascade of jagged stone. He emerged coughing, bleeding, furious. But the stone had done more than block the Ravager. It had trapped it. It howled, trying to charge its plasma core. Too late. He hurled a magnetic charge into the rubble, embedding it deep. The Ravager's own energy looped, reflected. Its chest exploded outward. 1 left. No. 2. The final Ravagers hovered now, wiser, slower. They moved like vultures. Their targeting had returned. The warden ducked into a cave mouth, trapped exactly where he wanted to be. Inside, the remains of an ancient forge, warden tech, rusted, silent, except for one thing. A skeletal drone, barely functional, still clinging to life beside a faded wall. The warden knelt beside it. Unit E7, he whispered. Reboot protocol. Override. The machine flickered. You are late, it rasped. Not yet, the warden muttered. He opened the back of his forearm plate, plugged in the last neural capsule. Transfer my sequence. Processing. The Ravagers approached. The canyon shook. Now, he said. The drone screamed to life, eyes flaring, limbs jerking, and it back unfolding into a pulse array of deadly light. Just as the Ravagers entered, the forge exploded. A storm of ancient wood and fire swept the cave mouth. Everything became light. They found the wreckage 2 days later. Dagonet's command deployed hazmat mechs to sift the remains. They found both Ravagers, fried, twisted, cores shattered. They also found blood, human, and a finger, tattooed, scars on the knuckle. DNA match, Warden-class operative, Earthborn designation, Kying Solus, declared confirmed KIA. Admiral RYX exhaled as he read the report. Well, he murmured, the fire's out. He sealed the folder. Prepare the public update. Make it clean. Say it was pirates. Blame resistance cells. Burn the rest. But before the officer could nod, a silent alarm chimed. RYX frowned. A message had just pinged from a black site channel. No origin. No header. Just a symbol. 7 interlocking blades. And one line. Orbit bleeds. You just watched it die. RYX froze. Because he knew what that meant. The warden was not dead. He'd let them think he was. He'd walked into that forge not to fight, but to broadcast. His signal was now live. Across the Accord. Across hidden frequencies. Across outlaw networks and resistance cells. He wasn't just alive. He was calling others. Far away, in the dot between colonies, an old man with no eyes opened a drawer and removed his blade. In a broken city of ice, a woman with copper implants stared at the symbol glowing across her wall. She smiled, and in the ruins of Orvan's spine, a girl buried something in the date, a blade, the one he gave her. Next to it, she planted a flag, upside down. They called themselves the Children of Ka. Not rebels, not soldiers, witnesses, to injustice, to Owen Ka's blood spilling in the dust, to the warden's arrival, and the firestorm that followed. They were farmers, dock hands, mothers who stitched wounds with kitchen thread, boys who learned to load a rifle before they knew what love felt like. They didn't rise because they wanted to. They rose because silence had become unbearable. It began at the crater, where the Ravagers died, where the warden burned orbit clean and left nothing but molten tech and a broken promise. The Galactic Patrol called it an unauthorized atmospheric training accident. A lie. But lies have shape. They cast shadows. And in those shadows, something stirred. The people started gathering. First in whispers, then in banners. One upside down, one burning black, and one made of torn cloth, stitched with a single word. Remember. They didn't have weapons. Not proper ones. What they had were pickaxes, pipe bombs, and fury. But what they lacked in firepower, they matched in resolve. They took over the all-line in Sector 12, sabotaged the drop bays at Junction Vaca, hijacked a food transport and gave everything to starving outpost kids. It wasn't about bloodshed. It was about message, until they killed Commander Helsa. Then it became blood. She was the one who ordered Owen Ka's execution, the one who laughed while the plasma bolt cooked his chest. The children cornered her outside a checkpoint, 30 of them, faces covered, hands trembling. She spat on the ground and said, "You won't shoot." So they didn't. They tore her apart with mining tools. It lasted 12 minutes. And when the first video surfaced, shaky, raw, brutal, it sparked riots on 29 fringe colonies. The hunt began 3 days later. Dagonet's command activated subdirective black glass. Eradicate resistance by all means. No arrests. No survivors. The children didn't stand a chance. Gunships swept over the valleys. Mechs with suppressor cannons crushed barricades. Villages were turned to containment ash. They tried to fight, but they were children, and war doesn't forgive the brave. The warden watched from the mountain spine. He saw fire bloom where families had lived. He saw armored boots stamp out courage. He heard the screams, and he said nothing. He stayed hidden. He stitched his wounds, buried his tech, and watched the sky for signs. He knew this was how revolutions died, with hope misplaced in myths. He was no savior. He was a blade, and blades don't protect. They cut. The girl found him on the 6th night, face burned, blood down her leg, carrying her dead brother in a sack. She dropped it at his feet. "This is what your silence cost." He said nothing. She screamed, beat her fist against his chest. "You made us believe. You made us hope." Still, nothing. So she opened her coat and pulled out the shard he gave her, the data crystal, coated in dirt and rage. She threw it at his feet. "I buried that like you told me. I waited. I trusted. And you vanished." He looked at her, and for the first time since the war, his voice cracked. "I did what I was trained to do." She spat. "So did we. And we died for it." Then she walked away. He stood there for a long time, long after the echoes faded, long after the mountain wind swallowed her footsteps. The stars above were cold, unchanged, and he wondered, had he let the fire go out again? Was that all he was now? A relic? A warning? But as he turned to leave, he saw it, scrawled on a rock in drying blood. 7 blades, and a circle, his symbol, not carved by him. Someone else had taken it up. The children were cornered the next morning. Final survivors, huddled in an old ore smelter outside Zone 44. 57 civilians, all marked for death. Command deployed an Eraser unit, elite burn squad, known for their speed and absence of hesitation. 3 dropships landed. 12 soldiers in black glass armor. No faces, no insignias, only kill counts etched into their gauntlets. They gave no warning. They raised their weapons. And that's when the earth cracked. He came from the sky. Not flying, falling, riding the wreck of a scavenged patrol bike, steering it like a missile straight into the first dropship. It exploded on contact. Metal flew in all directions. The shockwave flattened half the smelter. But the warden stood, cloak burning, armor cracked, eyes full of purpose. He moved like thunder. First kill, gauntlet shatter strike to the jaw. The Eraser's helmet crumpled like wet tin. Blood sprayed the wall. Second, neck snap mid-roll, rifle turned on its owner. He moved between them like a ghost with fists. His blade danced in staccato bursts. Cut, deflect, impale. One tried to retreat. He didn't get 3 steps before the warden's boot shattered his spine. Another begged. The warden didn't blink. "You killed children." The blade ended the sentence. By the time the last Eraser choked on his blood, the children had emerged from hiding. Ash-covered, wide-eyed, they stared at the carnage, then at him. But he wasn't facing them. He was staring at the sky, where 2 new ships were already inbound. Bigger, faster, bringing death without pause. He turned to them. "You've got 5 minutes," he said. "Where?" someone asked. "Down." He opened a rusted hatch under the smelter, an old warden fallback tunnel. It led beneath the crust, to cave forgotten by the Empire. They hesitated. "Go," he roared. They went. The girl didn't. She stayed behind. "You'll die," she said. "Probably," he said. She stepped closer. "But you'll die alone." He looked at her, eyes old, voice tired. "Maybe that's what I was made for." He turned toward the hatch, tossed her something. Not a blade, not data. A book, pages bound in leather. The oath. "I've seen what you can do with a blade. Time to see what you can do with a fire." He shut the hatch, and then the sky screamed. The last 2 ships hit the smelter with sonic roars. But they didn't find fear waiting. They found him, standing, bleeding, grinning like a man who finally remembered who he was. He whispered, "Let's see if metal bleeds twice." And then the storm began. The last fire was not warm. It didn't dance. It didn't crackle. It devoured. Ash rose from the smelter ruins in plumes thick as war clouds. And in the heart of it, where flesh shouldn't survive, he stood, the warden. No cloak now, no legend, just a man with cracked armor, red around the edges, standing between the black glass ships and the tunnel hatch holding the last of the children of Ka. Smoke curled from his gauntlets. His eyes gleamed like war-born comets. And when the first boot dropped from the second wave, he moved. There were 20 of them, not erasers, shroud breakers, genetic elites, cyber-stitched, engineered to shred rebel leaders in under 60 seconds. Every part of them pulsed with quiet malice. They surrounded him in a fan, weapons raised, synchronized breath, neural-linked. He didn't wait, didn't blink, didn't hesitate. He charged. First impact, his shoulder into the closest soldier's chest. A crack like a thunderclap. The trooper's ribs shattered beneath carbon ceramic plating. The second slashed wide, sword singing. The warden dipped low, caught the strike on his forearm plate, then twisted, knife hand to the elbow, severing ligaments. The scream that followed wasn't human. He liked that. They circled fast, adapted faster. One leapt from behind, boots igniting, blade drawn mid-air. The warden rolled under, grabbed a jagged rebar from the rubble, and speared upward. Metal and meat met like old enemies. The body landed behind him, twitching. He didn't fight clean. He fought like a dying storm, with grit in his lungs, with scars as armor, with purpose that didn't beg for understanding. And they couldn't stop him. Not the 6th, not the 8th, not the twin-blade assassin who sliced open his thigh and earned a boot through the visor in return. He took hits. Ribs cracked. Fingers broke. But he kept rising, kept moving. He hit the 13th trooper so hard the spine folded in half. He carved the 15th open with the broken end of a patrol rifle. And by the time the last 3 hesitated, just for a breath, he was already past them. A blay, a war song with a human face. The ships tried to lift. He didn't let them. He leapt, caught the landing gear of the retreating one with one hand, and detonated his last mine on the thruster intake. The explosion painted the sky. He rode the wreckage down like a meteor. Then everything stopped. Only silence, smoke, and the slow hiss of cooling steel. He crawled from the crater, knees shaking, face cut deep, blood running down both arms. But he crawled, and when he stood, he faced the command drone circling above. It blinked, recording, broadcasting. Name, it demanded, synthesized. His lips bled when he spoke. Kying Solars. Warden class. Earthborn. Status. He looked at the smelter, at the ash, at the hatch. They lived. Then, quieter. I didn't. The drone hovered, processing, and from it, a single message transmitted off-world, not to Dagoness Command, not to the Galactic Court, but to everyone, every outlaw channel, every hidden network, every resistance sliver floating between rocks in space, a feed of the warden's stand, the fight, the fall, the fire, broadcast without permission, without edit, without fear. It lit stars on fire. Across the belt, the Boers downed tools and picked up axes. In the slums of IO-12, old soldiers burned their pardons. And in a broken schoolhouse under the twin sons of Ares, a young boy painted 7 blades on the wall, with his father's blooded hand. Below the surface, in the tunnel, the girl heard the silence above. She waited, then rose. She climbed the ladder, opened the hatch, and stepped into the smoke. Her boots crushed spent shells. Her eyes found the crater. And in it, him. He was sitting, barely, face to the sky, blade buried beside him like a gravestone. "Why'd you stay?" she asked. He turned his head, slow, broken, because the last fire doesn't beg. She didn't cry. She'd used all her tears, so she sat beside him. He held out the book. "The oath?" she asked. He nodded. She took it, opened it, and on the first page, written in blood and ash, "When the stars forget us, we carve our names into fire." He didn't speak after that. Didn't breathe, just watched the sky until his eyes stopped reflecting light. They buried him there, not beneath dirt, but beneath a can of broken patrol helmets, a tower of their failure. At the top, his blade, half sunk in steel, half wrapped in cloth, and painted on the rock below. Warden, not a man, a match. 3 weeks later, the children of Ka rose again, under a new name, the Flamebound. They had numbers now, weapons. They even had a fleet. But more than anything, they had a story, one they told at every fire, one that didn't beg, one that burned.